There's more sound. There's a bigger sound coming out of you, but there's not. It's just you. It's quite impressive.
Thank you.
Well, you are 7 foot tall. A lot of people don't know that. Do they?
And breathe fire.
Yeah.
So it's really weird seeing that voice come out of you. But
Let's face it, rock and roll, it hasn't been very dangerous in a while.
Everyone knows what rock and roll is. It's a very large umbrella. It covers a whole bunch of stuff.
Could you say that the Gaga gimmick was an afterthought? You know, like she had the songs, but they said, nah, you need more.
she's definitely one that has the talent. Can write, can do singing, songwriting.
We started coming out to the West Coast in the early 80s. We saw Kennedy's Black Flag, flipping all this, really nihilistic punk rock thing. Man, there's a lot of rules in this thing. You gotta wear this chain that way, and you gotta hate this particular kind of politics. It was just like all these rules, and we're like, what are these rules about? We want to make music. Music.
I was ready to be born ready.
Oh, yes. Sounds a bit like rock and roll, doesn't it?
10 seconds, guys.
From Mind Rocket Studio, between Ohio and Pennsylvania, covering the culture of popular music of yesterday and today. Speaking of music, you're listening to it. With your hosts, from the Raw Alternative, Rick Polo, from SYLM, Joe Sinkovich, and Lucas Gola. Here's your anchor, Jimmy Martin.
I wanna say tonight. I feel it when I loosen up my mind. Can't hear you when you say this is just the way it is. And so you know, and if only you could find this spine, and it's right in front of you. You're hopeless now. And if only you could change your mind, and it's breaking you until you're desperate now. What will you do? What will you do?
All right, that was a cut from our Mind Rocket Project sessions. Mr. Daniel Van Kirk and his new band, Panty Droppin Rock Brigade, formerly of Rounding Third. And you can listen to more Mind Rocket Project sessions at the Jimmy Fro Show YouTube channel. With us today is our panelists, Rick Polo from the Raw Alternative, Joe Sinkovich from Supporting Your Local Music, and special guest in studio, Shiloh Hawkins from the band Blew Through Branches. On today's episode of Speaking of Music, we're talking about the new Bjork album, the new Forced U2 Apple device album, and the music industry as it relates to that phenomenon. Also, Lucas being the bassist for the band Resonant, we're going to talk about his involvement in the band and how they've marketed their music and have him pick one of our questionable questions. So we hope you enjoy the episode, Speaking of Music.
Side of me. Every time I saw you, that side became real, more real. And I thought I should tell you how I feel.
All right, we're going to get an update from Shiloh and see what she's been up to. Talk about her music and what's going on with Blew Through Branches. So, what's up, Shiloh?
What's up? The band is going well. We haven't played out as a 4-piece in a little over a year, and it's unfortunate because I feel that all of those guys are just phenomenal musicians and phenomenal people. But life got kind of crazy for us, so Paul Hill and myself have been playing out as a 2-piece, and it's actually worked out swimmingly. Instead of going to 3 other people to book a show and make sure everybody's schedules align, Paul and I are probably the more free of the two, which is crazy to say since we're, busy as well, but it's easier for the two of us to book shows. So
Sure.
We had a busy summer, which was cool. We had a decently busy winter as well. Fall was kind of slow, but we got to get this album finished. I'm excited about that. Yeah, that's the update.
I've heard a lot of your songs on CD93's Homegrown show. I think they played For You a few times.
Yes.
So you've had some songs out there. People are aware of your material. With regard to your material that's out there now, new material, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Are we going to see a Shiloh Hawkins record out there, a full-length album?
I really hope so. Yes,
so?
absolutely. That's the plan. I actually have been brainstorming up some solo projects that I want to do soon, where I would just go under Shiloh Hawkins rather than Blue Through Branches, and it would be just a totally separate entity, and I would really like to release an album like that, that's more folky and less of the acoustic djembe, than as we played as a 4-piece as well. So yeah, that's definitely on the list.
Who do you listen to now or who would best pair with your music that's out there in the mainstream now that people are aware of?
I don't really know if I can answer that. Just, this is not coming from me, but a couple of shows that I've done have had people tell me that I remind them of Alanis Morissette.
Okay.
Which I don't see at all, to be honest with you.
No, you're soft. You have a soft delivery.
Right. So I don't really know. I don't, I know who I'm influenced by, but it doesn't mean that my music reflects them whatsoever, Right now I feel like I'm kind of just coming back from a long, dry, period of time where I was having a hard time. I had writer's block. And I feel like right now I'm trying to find my sound, and I don't really have a comparison, Like I said, I know who I'm influenced by. Like, I know that Ani DeFranco is the whole reason I have an acoustic guitar in the first place, but I don't feel that my music is similar to hers whatsoever,
Mm-hmm.
The delivery, the way you were singing, it actually reminded me a lot of Tori Amos, like older Tori Amos. Like it was very
breathy,
smooth and breathy, but it was very impactful.
Yes,
like it
emotional.
It hit you. Like it wasn't just a falsetto voice in there just singing. Like there's meaning and there's passion behind it, because
almost an ethereal quality to it as well. Like there's more sound, there's a bigger sound coming out of you, but there's not. It's just you. It's quite impressive.
Thank you.
Well, you are 7 foot tall. A lot of people don't know that.
And breathe fire.
Yeah.
So it's really weird seeing that voice come out of you. But
how important is it to you? You mentioned being influenced by Ani DeFranco, but not sounding like her. How important is it to you to not wear your influences on your sleeve so heavily, to sort of take an influence and put your own twist on that?
How important is that to me?
Yes.
That's extremely important. There have been plenty of times where I started writing a song and realized that just it had too similar of a vibe to Ani or to another artist that I had been really, pounding hard listening to all the time. Like I said, I'm still searching for my own sound, and I kind of feel like a lost puppy sometimes when it comes to what that sound is. But it's very important for me to write and not have that influence worn on my sleeve. I don't want someone to hear me and go, oh, that sounds, like she's trying to be like Ani DeFranco. Like I don't want that. As much as I admire Ani and I've learned so much from listening to her and watching her play live, watching documentaries. I've learned a tremendous amount from her. And first of all, I think she's just absolutely phenomenal. And if I could be half a good of a guitarist that she is someday, I would die happy, But I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to steal away that uniqueness that she has. More so, I'm inspired by her being unique, than I'm inspired by wanting to copy her sound.
It's definitely better to be influenced, and for people to say, well, yeah, you could definitely tell she has these influences, than to say, oh yeah, she sounds like Ani DeFranco,
exactly,
or she sounds like that. So it's that's good thing.
Yeah. So we do a thing where we have a guest pick out a question from an envelope of questions. We call it our questionable questions.
Yes.
Would you like to pick one and read it for us?
Sure. I've got the envelope right here.
Pick a good one.
I'm kind of scared.
Scared?
Oh, yeah. All right. Do I open it myself?
Sure.
All right.
No one else is going to take
you're
that
right.
chance.
Okay. Do you like answering incoherent, confusing questions? And if so, why not? Oh my God.
People love that question.
You might have to pick another.
What the hell?
I think that question might be. I don't think that one's
I feel like this is a trick question.
This is what happens when you let Joe Bob hear.
Yeah. Here, let me take that one.
This one's yours?
Try another one.
Okay.
They might all say the same thing.
But it says to pick a new question underneath in parentheses.
Yes.
So that was just like a.
Oh, I wondered.
Oh boy. Okay, this is funny. This question is funny because I had a discussion with somebody about this recently, and I don't even remember who it was, but we did discuss. Okay, so what is your definition of a hipster? And if being a hipster is a bad thing, just because someone happens to have a beard, sincerely admire the band Arcade Fire or Grizzly Bear, prefer craft beer, and have a genuine lack of admiration for mainstream culture, does that make them a hipster? All right, well, I think people have a very negative connotation attached to the word hipster. You know, there seems to be two sides, though. There's like one group of people that like they're like self-proclaimed hipsters, or other people label them as hipsters, and they're like, oh, you know, I'm part of the scene. Then the other half, everybody just hates them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've really tried to avoid the whole discussion. Even really, like I said, I did talk about the other day. I mean, obviously, the root word in hipster is hip. You know, it's people that are trying to stay on top of things and follow the scene, I guess, which can be a good thing. I think especially in, you know, the city that we're from, Youngstown, Ohio, it's kind of necessary. Someone has to be staying on top of things and seeing, you know, what the latest thing happening downtown is, especially when it comes to music, you know. So I don't necessarily think being a hipster is a bad thing. You know, I think it could become very cliche, and I think that it's a little funny that, like, you know, people associate the word hipster with people with a long beard, you know, and I don't know, now the curly mustache and the big huge square frame glasses and the skinny jeans. You know, there's a whole, I think when anybody says the word, when somebody says the word hipster, everybody has like that same image in their minds. But I don't know, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I like craft beer and skinny jeans, and I also like the music scene, and I would like to stay on top of it more. And if that makes me a hipster, so be it.
You gotta grow a beard.
I'm working on it. I mean, you know, it takes a little longer for me than you guys.
I like how you broke that down then when you said there's two sides to it, because there are people that, like you said, the root word is hip. And sometimes there are people that just incidentally find themselves seeking out hip things because they like things that are cool. Yeah. And it might be like a incidental recognition. Oh, wow. I've noticed lately I've tended to like things that eventually other people say, this is cool, this is in, this is happening. Then there's that other side where people are contrived in their pursuit to find something hip and then exclude everybody else that hasn't found it yet for the sake of that effect. You know, I remember back in the 90s, I had these friends that they would say, you know, I was into Pornos for Pyros, I think it was a Perry Farrell spinoff band.
I love
and
that.
I this friend, no matter what I would throw at him, no, man, you got to listen to Chaos, Beer Basket, Gypsy Pigeons. And, you know, only because 4.5 people know of that band. And the second that 3 other people like it, all of a sudden he didn't like that band. And I think that was the birth of the hipster phenomenon, where people insincerely achieve the hip part of hipster just for the Fonzie factor of it, not because they just happen to like how beer tastes when they drink it.
Right, exactly. There's a huge difference. And that's what makes the two sides, you know. I think the self-proclaimed hipsters that are doing these things because they are cool, not because they have a genuine interest in them. That's the difference, you know. And as soon as the next fad comes in, that'll go away, and then you'll be able to tell who's actually wanting to follow, you know, what's going on, and who just wants to be seen that way.
Be part of the newest trend.
Exactly. As soon as it goes away, you know, you find out.
Yeah.
God only knows what's next.
Right.
Oh, can't get much worse.
I'm still trying to grow my beard. People need to slow down.
It's going to come in, and then that's going to be out of style. I don't like craft beer, so I think I'm okay. I got a beard. I don't like mainstream. but I don't like craft beer, so I'm pretty sure I'm not a hipster.
Yeah, I don't like a lot of music that's, I guess you can say, mainstream, but I have this bad habit of falling in love with scenes that have already happened. Like when I discovered how awesome the industrial scene was of the late 80s, early 90s, it was well gone over with. I discovered the Refused and At the Drive-In 5 years after they broke up. So I'm like, what would I be, like a behind the curve hipster sort of? Yeah, American Football, another great band that I'm just found out about last year.
They were just on the Comedy Bang Bang, right?
Emo band, yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you could say emo, but I think emo gives a negative connotation in a lot
Like
of
Fallout.
Yeah, they think like
Yeah.
mall emo with the swooped haircuts and the snake bite piercings. Like, I consider that almost the more, indie rock. That's a very broad term, kind of vague, but yeah, emo has a negative connotation. But yeah, they've definitely influenced it.
All right, so Shiloh, you're going to do a song for us in studio today. You want to tell us about the song?
Yeah, sure. It's called October. I just recently introduced it to my sets when I was playing out. With songwriting, most of the time I find that if a song doesn't happen almost immediately for me, nothing usually becomes of it. It seems like the stuff that I play out on a regular basis, the songs that are going to be on our album, they all seem to like kind of happen like overnight for me, and not even. I remember For You, the one you mentioned earlier, I wrote that song like an hour before a show, and I played it that night. Everything just fell right into place.
Wow.
Yeah, and I get frustrated and I'm very impatient, so if it doesn't happen, usually I just let it go. But this song is different because I wrote the lyrics years ago. I mean, I was probably 16, and that's before I even started actually singing. And so I'm 24 now, so not like that was, wasn't that long ago, but still for me it was. And the music came later, and like I said, usually it kind of happens simultaneously. And I don't know, so after years, everything just kind of fell together for it, and I was like, oh, I guess I can use this. It's not forever lost. So that's a background behind it.
So
Awesome.
like the stuff that doesn't happen automatically for you, do you reuse that later down the road? Do you like revisit that, or maybe pull a riff or a guitar part from something that didn't work for you and putting it into another song? Or do those riffs and those ideas just kind of...
They just kind of float into space, to be honest with you, which is the weird part, which is why I was kind of like taken back when October did happen, because, and it's a shame because sometimes I come up with some stuff that to me is, it sounds really good, but it's like if I can't figure out a way to use it like right then and there, or, I'll give it a few days or even a month, whatever, but if it's just frustrating to me and it's not working, it usually just kind of goes in a vault that I never reopen.
And that's a very, very brave thing, because there's a lot of people out there that write riffs that they force them. They make them work because that's what they wrote, and they don't want to get rid of it. They don't want to throw that riff away. They don't want to throw this song away. But, if you want to actually be taken serious, and, you want your music to mean something, it can't be forced.
Yeah.
If it's forced and it doesn't flow well, then people are going to pick up on that, and you're going to pick up on that when you're playing it. So it's definitely brave to be able to just get rid of it. Like I know that we reuse a lot of things that if it don't work right now, we'll go back and revisit it if you remember. That's the other bad part is actually remembering, because how many songs do you have now, like as a catalog? How many? Like, they're all originals, right? They're all originals?
Yeah. I mean, like, if we're doing like a 3-hour set, we'll throw some covers in there. But for the most part, I try to play all original material.
And you could do 3 hours with original material?
No, that's when I do throw some covers in there. I could if I really honestly wanted to, but again, that stuff that doesn't flow, I just discard it, you know?
And that's a lot of music and a lot of time going through all of our heads, like doing that.
Sure. Songs need to ferment too. Sometimes it's like wine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny that some of the material that, that I started playing out, just solo, it's like as soon as I introduced it to Tim and Paul and Derek, it just completely changed, like it just right in front of me, it's like as soon as they touched it, the four of us just completely transformed it. It's funny how things change over time,
Definitely.
As a songwriter, do you find yourself more attracted to the idea of a song that is, as the years go by and as you grow as a person, you can relate to the song in different ways, the song grows with you? Or are you more prone to songs that are a specific photograph of one moment in time, a reflection of one particular instance?
Yeah, for the most part, they're just very nostalgic for me. You know, I mean, I do have a few that I have, you know, that I've grown with and I can still relate to, but most of my songs are about, you know, they take me straight back to a specific moment in time or a time period in my life, and I know exactly how I was feeling, you know, and how I felt and who was surrounding me and what kind of situation I was in. I definitely lean more toward that.
Is it difficult to channel, you know, maybe the person you were 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and, you know, in a particular song that, you know, maybe a little more somber, a little more sad, so to speak?
That's an interesting question. I guess sometimes it is. You know, I think nostalgia is very powerful. Like I said, it can take you straight back. So I guess it just depends on how much I'm willing to channel it, like how deep I'm willing to go. You know, I think there's a lot of emotion and a lot of feelings attached to a song. You know, any song. I mean, as long as it's written from the heart or whatever. You know, and I know for me, like my lyrics, they mean a lot to me. You know, I don't know if anybody else can relate to them, but that's really not what it's about. So for me, you know, there's a lot of emotion attached to them, and so I always know the difference, like whether I'm willing to dive right in and go back and feel how I felt then, you know, because that takes a strain on you.
Most of your songs, from somebody else listening to them as well, they're going to hear them in the way they want to hear them,
Exactly.
and the words mean something to you. They may mean something completely different to
Absolutely.
somebody listening to your words. It may touch them a completely different way, you know, and that's the great part about being a musician.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of times the song's ruined for me is when I have a really, you know, I latch onto a song and then the artist explains what it's about, and I'm like, oh man, I can't associate it with.
That isn't what I was thinking it was. Yeah. It's now, yep.
And I've heard artists say that's something they try to stay away from because they don't want to ruin that for their fan, that it has a totally different idea.
Yep. You want people to have that mind trip, that imagine it, you know, like when they hear your song, you want it to take them somewhere, to be nostalgic, like she said, to, you know, open up those doors and passages. And, you know, still this day I hear some songs from the 90s. It gets like that. It's, you know, it's like it brings me back to that time.
And obviously there's some tracks, what comes to mind is Eric Clapton when he was with Derek and the Dominoes, Layla. That was about Patty Boyd, George Harrison's wife at the time. But that song is vague enough to where, you know, you could listen to it and you could hear the desperation in that song. You could hear just the fact that he's in slight denial and that he's wishing for something that just isn't there. And I think that's something that, you know, resonates all people, all genders, all walks of life. Everybody has that feeling at one point or another. And, you know, there's qualities in those songs. And the song you mentioned that you performed today, you mentioned is 8 years old. You know, I would have never have known. That song, I can hear that in that song. There's something there that just kind of transcends time and emotion. It's a very general thing I think people could latch onto, even if you let the specifics of it go. I know that I could always, you know, feel that one. So
cool, thank you.
No problem.
So, Shiloh, how do people find out about what you're doing next, where you're playing, and hear some more music from you?
Well, we have a Facebook page, you know, facebook.com/Blue Through Branches. I also have a personal acoustic page. It's facebook.com/Shiloh Hawkins Acoustic. Mm-hmm. I am working on an actual website, you know, but on our Facebook page, there is a really old ass demo on there that people can listen to. It's actually the stuff that's still playing on the Homegrown Show. I really got to get some new demos out. But yeah, I mean, I post all of our dates on there. We have a Twitter, we have a SoundCloud, a Reverb Nation, a MySpace, you know, multiple social networking sites.
And when this comes out, it'll be shared on the Supporting Your Local Music page. I'll share their page. And
cool.
So when you're listening to this, go check them out. If you can't find them, go to the supporting page. You'll find it.
Raw Alternative as well.
Raw Alternative.
Cool.
Absolutely.
You'll find them.
That's the greatest thing about this merger is that all these little satellite endeavors that we're doing, my thought was, why aren't we combining all these things that we're doing and making it one big thing? increasing the size of our megaphone. So, Shiloh, thanks for participating today. It's very cool to have you. And let's listen to October by Shiloh Hawkins.
September, a time that has always enticed me. Days before November, in 30 days this time will seems. And I'll be left with the thought of another year just come and gone. How much progress I have made. I just watched the leaves of trees change colors and then fade. I want to feel your touch. I want to disregard these circumstances hanging over our heads. I want to slip up. I long to feel your touch. I long to disregard these circumstances hanging over our heads.
Hi, this is Lee Boyle from Third Class, Nursery Podcast, and Bullskit Production, Comedy Troupe. You are listening to Speaking of Music.
From Steel Standing Entertainment, returning to Youngstown, Revive Music and Arts Festival, Saturday, July 18th. A full day of music featuring Jones for Revival, Vibe and Direct, Five Elements, Jordan DePaul, Haas and the Juggernauts, Demos, Papademos and his band, Northern Whale, Cardboard Cutouts, 2 days until tomorrow, The River Zone, The Classic Cruisers, and The Flying Trees. Saturday, July 18th.
So for the next segment, we're going to hand it over to Mr. Rick Polo, and Rick's going to tell you about the new Bjork album, as well as U2's choice to release their latest album on Apple's iPhone devices, sort of on the down low. And then with that, we're going to talk about the U2 of yesteryear and today. Rick?
Thanks, Jimmy. As I'm sure everyone knows by now, the music industry is not what it used to be. Physical albums aren't selling. They're not the main source of consumption really now. It's very much online downloading, and it's kind of turned the industry as a whole upside down. And in recent years, some of the more prominent acts in music, great example Radiohead, kind of took advantage of that and released an album fully online, pay what you want. Depending on how much you pay, you can get different levels of it. You can get just simply an MP3 download. You can buy a physical copy. You could buy digital artwork. You could buy a deluxe package. And it was something that was very catered toward the fans. Mm-hmm. And there's been many trials and errors with that. And I believe we have a clip of Tom York kind of talking about how Radiohead's journey through the music industry when they began up to that point.
Yeah, let's just take a listen to this.
So, all right. So those are but even early on with Radiohead, I mean, your theatricality didn't rely on device. You just have a certain intensity to it. I mean, you have to reckon with your particular, presence, but it didn't require, you didn't wear the leather jackets.
The most extraordinarily bad outfits.
Well, maybe that was the hook.
Yeah. I hope not.
But how did you find your way, on stage? Was it initially discomfort?
It was, I don't know. I think it took a long time, actually. I mean, because we signed to like EMI, and, we just said to them, we haven't got a clue what we're doing. I mean, it's very nice that you like our songs and everything, that you think we're going to be famous, but we haven't got a clue what we're doing. We've just left college. Give us some money for a van, and maybe a little bit of money for a hotel so we don't have to sleep in the van.
Yeah.
And leave us alone for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
So we can figure this shit out. Unfortunately, sort of a year into that, we get this, we get this meeting with, a manager saying, Creep's a massive hit in, Israel first, and then in K-Rock here.
Yeah.
And in New York, and you've got to go. You've got to go. So I'm still trying to figure this shit out.
You're a year into the van thing.
Yeah, and then suddenly I'm being, suddenly we're flown over here, and everyone's sort of expecting us to be rock stars, and we're like, okay.
Yeah.
Were
you terrified?
I should say that's oblivious courtesy of the WTF podcast by Mark Maron.
Nice. So yeah, Tom York saying, in the early days, artists had to really cut their teeth, and, that exposure on different radio stations, which led to album sales, propelled them into being one of the biggest bands at the turn of the century. And by the time they released In Rainbows online, they had the fan base. The fan base was there. Now it's marginally harder, more difficult for a younger band out there to just say, well, here's our album, pay what you want, hope you like it.
Like the Bandcamp model.
Yeah. And you've seen success, but you've seen bands that just really, their music's great, but they're not reaching that audience, and the industry is just in shambles. And you're seeing you know, huge acts, you know, established acts, some for, you know, decades, you know, taking alternative measures of releasing their records. I know Joe had something to say about that.
The Weird Al, one of my favorite, he has been stuck on a record label for the past, 30 some years.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's finally out of the record label. And he went on saying that he's going to, instead of release full albums now, release a couple songs at a time, because his stuff is more now in the time, you know, because he's parodying pop culture stuff.
Time sensitive.
And with the way that it is now, the biggest problem is everything is accessible. So stuff gets so easily lost. You know, back in the 80s, Weird Al could put out a whole album 6 months later after all these other songs come out, because those songs are still hit songs. They're still being played. People are still listening to them. Well, now, you know, you could punch into Pandora, New Zealand rock station, and you can listen to everything that's going on over there. You know, everything is so accessible now.
Yes.
Stuff is just getting so lost, and everything has to change now, because you can't just put out records anymore. You can't, because it's gone, because it's so easy to find everything else. It's so overwhelming now to find stuff and to look for something you really actually like, because it's so hard to find now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And recently, Bjork, released her latest album. I might butcher the pronunciation of this. I believe it's Volin Canaria. If I'm
something
wrong.
Icelandic?
Yeah, something Icelandic.
That chick is crazy. You better hope she don't come through that door and take you down if you're saying it wrong.
In a swan outfit, it's very possible. But yes, she released months ahead of schedule. She dropped the album exclusively through iTunes. And I think that, first of all, that cut down piracy, because usually about a month to 6 weeks before the physical album release, you know, it's on Pirate Bay, it's on
BitTorrent.
Yes, everywhere. And it's been that way since the days of Napster. Someone within the industry, maybe for a couple of bucks, leaks it, and it spreads like mad cow disease. Mm-hmm. If mad cow disease spreads easily.
We'll assume that it does.
But
people are making out with cows.
So she released it exclusively through iTunes, and very well received. Her fans, you know, wow, we could just go and we could download it. And then naturally, if they like it, people that are fans of Bjork will buy it eventually anyway. They want that physical copy. Mm-hmm. Perhaps they'll want it on vinyl as well as CD. And casual listeners, well, yeah, I dig Bjork. I'll check it out. You know, just a couple bucks, download it, and it's on their iPod, and it could be interchangeable. It could be whatever. And that's a model that I've seen. Actually, Beyonce, from a whole different world, she did that. And I think the reason why they're pushing these major stars to do this is to eliminate piracy.
Stay ahead of it.
Yes, stay ahead of the curve, eliminate the piracy, so they can actually make some money.
Yes.
Taylor Swift, they took all of her albums off Spotify, because you could stream that endlessly. I think per stream of an album, you make like a fifth of a penny. So
wow, that's good money.
Yeah, I believe they had a recent example. Pharrell Williams had that hit song "Happy," and it had millions of streams, and he made $300,000 off of it.
Yes,
so imagine, the Boomtown Players, little indie rock band, releases their album on Spotify. Well, they get a couple thousand streams. Well, here's a couple cents.
Yes,
so it's very hard to measure. It's unfortunate, because it can work for these big stars, and it's a way for them to, the bigger stars need to still be making money too. There still needs to be some income on the top so it can grow. But how do the smaller and more independent bands fall in? A lot of these bands are giving their albums away for free and trying to make the money on merchandise and touring.
Mm-hmm.
And, I know, Lucas, you're a big fan of that desert rock scene, stoner rock scene, and none of those bands really blew up, you could say.
No, I mean, you know, I'll go see some of my favorite bands, and I've been listening to this, you know, say the Truck Fighters. I've been listening to those guys. They're from Sweden, you know, and I've been listening to them for 10 years, and, you know, they managed to make it over here. They'll play in a club in Pittsburgh. You know, there's not a whole lot of people. It's not packed. They're not making a whole lot of money from it. But, you know, I love them, and I'm going to go see them, and I'm sure that they have day jobs just like I have a day job and anyone else has a day job. You know, if you can get out and do it, if you can tour a couple times a year, then, you know, you might break even. You know, maybe you have to save up for a while to go on tour, but I think you do it because you love it. You know, if you're in a weird little genre like that, you do it because you love it.
And by the way, that's Lucas from Resonant.
Yes.
I don't think he was introduced. Rick just put him out on the spot. Although I'm pretty sure everyone knows who Lucas is. I mean, it's Lucas.
I wear a jacket that's got my name on it.
His name,
you know, usually,
and got fur on the collar, so you'll know.
Well, my regular jacket. This is my fancy new jacket. It doesn't have a name tag.
He wore his fancy jacket for today.
Yeah, I wanted everybody to see my fancy new jacket.
Well, visuals are important on an audio podcast.
They are.
Definitely.
Everybody see that? Yeah. It's pretty nice. Yeah. We'll take pictures.
Well, Lucas from Resonant. Being that, and I'm sure, as you mentioned, you know, there's small pockets of fans of these acts, you know, all over the place. Nothing collectively in a mass movement, but it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Do you think if you were to calculate all these people and all these little pockets and all these designated areas, how many times they are going on Spotify and Pandora and streaming them? If that was the equivalent to album sales, do you think it would be a different scenario?
I don't know. I mean, the metrics have changed. You know, now you can actually tell, like, very, very precisely how many people have listened to your songs. You know, if someone buys a record, they may buy it and never even open it. You know, they may buy it and listen to it once. You really don't know how many times. So, you know, when you're an artist and you're doing a thing that you want to do, and you can put it out there because, you know, now anyone can make a record. You know, the technology's there, it's cheap, it's free, the distribution is the internet. You know, anyone can hear it. Like, I listen to bands that are like, you know, stoner rock bands from Sweden, like, on a regular basis, and I'm here in the States, and sometimes I even get to see one of those bands. So, you know, I don't know how you get paid for that. I have no idea how you get paid for that. You know what I mean? Maybe by touring and selling t-shirts and stuff like that. But, you know, you can tell exactly how many people listen to what you did anytime, but you can't tell how many people listen to your record. So you know, it's hard to measure it, I guess. And it's hard to make money off of that. You know, how do you monetize? Like, people, like, a whole bunch of people dug your stuff. You know, you might, you know, I hear your stuff in a commercial, your stuff's in a movie. That's how you're making money. I mean, I guess if a couple million people streamed your song and you made $300,000 off it, like, that's pretty sweet. You didn't really have to do anything for that, you know, but your song's also big enough because it's featured in things. You know, there's people license music to commercials and, you know, movies and everything like that, video games, TV shows. Maybe that's a way you can make money from it, but
it's great to have it out there.
It's great to have it out there.
The internet
like,
gives you that accessibility.
Yeah. Like, you can listen to something that I have done, like, right now. Like, you can go to YouTube and type in my band's name and you can see us doing some stuff. Like, anywhere on earth, you can do that right now. That's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Does anyone care? I don't know. Am I going to get rich off it? No, probably not, but it's super fun.
Yes. I think Spotify model's good for artists like Lil Wayne, or Taylor Swift, who sell so many millions and billions of albums that it's a great supplemental income stream.
Right, it's like a royalty check, you know?
Yeah, because like you said, there's that song "Happy" that Pharrell wrote. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. It was in movies and commercials. It's, you know, it's in Taco Bell commercials. It's everywhere. So that's just that walking to the mailbox and grabbing a paycheck every once in a while.
Yeah,
and that's pretty nice. I'd like to do that. I'm getting paid for this, right? Like, it's pretty sure.
Checks in the mail.
All right, cool.
But do you think fans of you know, you mentioned like Lil Wayne and Taylor Swift, do you think they are as passionate as, you know, the fans of like the bands Lucas was mentioning? You know, are they actually going out and physically buying these, or are they just going to Spotify, Pandora, maybe buying them off iTunes, which is also nominal compensation from?
I can't imagine they are, for a simple fact of a lot of that stuff is the pop music right now. It's popular, It's on the radios. So that's where the people are tuning in, just listening to it on there. Like you said, maybe streaming it when they're in the car with their buddies for, going to the club to do some dancing or whatever these young kids do nowadays. And it's probably less likely. I mean, I'm sure Lucas owns every CD that Truck Fighters ever put out.
Absolutely. And then I have it, redundant on vinyl.
Yeah. I can't imagine that every girl going to the dance club has bought the whole Lil Wayne album, but there's a song on there about shaking your butt. So they got that one song, and
it has greater mass appeal.
Yeah. And it's played over and over again in their car, and they think it's great.
But that's like a whole different planet. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that guy exists. Like, I can pick him out of a lineup of, a whole bunch of people. Like, I know who the guy is, but I don't think I've ever heard like a minute of a thing he's done. I don't know. I know he's famous. I know that he's a big deal. I know that he likes drinking cough syrup, and man, who doesn't? But,
who does it though?
True.
But I've never heard it. I don't have to hear it. There is no great conduit anymore. That you're going to see this. Like, if you're sitting around watching MTV, eventually a video, when you're a kid, when they did that sort of thing, there's going to be a song that you don't like, but you're sitting through it anyway because the remote's over there and you're just hanging out watching MTV. Anyway.
I'm really surprised that CJ didn't put that song on last night from our show, Lucas.
Oh, just blaring bad techno. It was,
bad techno.
Yeah. For some reason, a drummer from our band, from Resonant, a nice stoner rock band, was blaring techno in the truck on the way home last night.
Like loud.
Trying to keep him awake, maybe.
No, we don't know what he was doing.
He wasn't driving. Who cares if he was
he was trying. We wishing he would have went to sleep.
Yeah, it would have been nice. We could have turned on the radio and had a conversation.
So to put a bow on this conversation, Rick, you were talking earlier about U2's inserting their new record on Apple iOS devices. How does that fit into this discussion?
Well, here's another big established artist sort of experimenting with and taking a very bold making a very bold statement, taking a very bold move by just giving it away, but in a very unconventional way, because it's not like you got an email saying, would you like to download the new U2 album? It's free. Here you go. No, it just appeared on everyone's devices.
Mm-hmm. It ruined my whole Saturday. Ruined my whole Saturday. Go ahead.
and is it fair to assume that, everybody is interested in the new U2 album? Sure, there's plenty of people that are. But what about those people that, absolutely cannot stand U2?
Yeah.
Never were fans of them, or were at one time and are no longer. Is it fair to say... Are you basically saying, please listen to our music? Are you, it leaves a lot of questions. And I know from the responses online, it left a very bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
It's very audacious marketing.
Yes.
Absolutely.
At a minimum.
Yes. And the fact that it was put on there in such a way, you couldn't, it's still, I can't take it off my iPad. I don't know how to make it disappear. You can make it so it hides it or something, but I can't get rid of it, and it makes me feel dirty every time I look at my set list because they pop up. Because I've never been a fan of U2. I give them respect. I mean, they're still around. Obviously, when was their first album?
79, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was early 80s or
80.
Yeah, so they've been around. They're still doing it. They're still out there. It's still the same four guys that started out, which nowadays is amazing. But that was just a shitty thing to do. It was felt just so forced upon. It's like what Rick said. It would have been better to wake up, you got a notification, hey, would you like the new U2 album? Here it is. Not just shove it in there and just... Oh.
And one has to wonder, U2 having a career with such longevity, would the U2 of their early career, they were very more political and definitely, a more hungry band before they got a certain level of success. Would that U2 have done what this U2?
Sure, that's a good question.
How do you merit that, And U2, and I know, Jimmy, I'm assuming you're sort of a casual fan of U2. Definitely knowledgeable of their discography, I mean, how do you feel about how U2 has progressed as a band? Do you think this is a move that, fans of the early material would have expected and embraced?
I don't, and I'll talk very briefly about their political message and their activism. I think that they would have had the position back in the 80s that it was selling out to just involuntarily throw their music in front of somebody's ear. But that aside, I have very strong opinions about U2 of yesterday and today. When U2 was formed in the late 70s and they put out Boy in October, that was in the heyday of MTV when New Wave was really big. You had a lot of bands in the UK that were making a splash, and their music was very substantive. I mean, even today, you listen to New Year's Day, and that song evokes imagery. It's like a big double-stacked German chocolate cake. It's thick with layers. It's got a lot of heart to it, and you stack that up, or anything off of Unforgettable Fire or Joshua Tree or October, like I Will Follow, October, the song October. You stack that up against the stuff that they churn out today, and it's just so disappointing. I mean, the music they put out today is so pandering and formula. I mean, it's like something that I can only imagine that like Acura asked you to write to insert in their commercial. It's just so rock and roll and digital and just flat and generic that it annoys me to hear people talk about U2 and the music they put out today, and even include it in the same conversation with the original U2 that made the record Boy and made the record October. So,
and don't forget that their influenced everybody from, Public Enemy to Rage Against the Machine, in their early days. So, that's definitely where they were coming from. Just to add a little background to that sentiment of selling out. Mm. Do you, and going back to today's business models, if you want to reach that mass audience, do you have to sell out? Has that always been the question? What do you guys think?
I think there is a little aspect to that. I mean, there was a time in the 80s where Universal and Atlantic, their executives would pressure bands to have one ballad. Last song on side 2, we need a ballad.
Mm-hmm. And it's definitely, I mean, if that's your goal is to reach the mass audience, then you have to. Mm-hmm. Because like I said earlier, everything is so accessible now. If you really want to get out there and reach everybody, then you have to have some strong backing behind it. You have to have, you got to have your theme song, or AT&T have your song as their theme song, or the new Google commercial is using your song, or the new iPod commercial is the only way that you're really, if that's what you want to do, is reach everybody. The Melvins, they've been around forever, but there's still a bunch of people who have never even heard of them, because they don't want to do that, but they've been there. They've been playing for quite some time. They have an amazing discography, but, they don't want to reach everybody. It's like, I wouldn't care to reach everybody. Not everybody's going to be interested into what you're doing.
Sure.
And if everybody's interested in what you're doing, then it's probably no good, because that means it's just some cookie cutter crap that they sat around a circle in some boardroom and decided what formula makes the best type of pop song, and they put together this crap and they shovel it out the door. And there's no heart in it. Mm-hmm. So if you're selling out and you have no heart, is it really selling out? You're just a puppet.
So at the end of the day, the music business is still business. Is it hard to juggle? It seems like it's hard to juggle artistic integrity between, well, why do people do this? Well, you want people to hear your music. You want to share that with you, whether you're aiming to share that with 300 people in small niches or 3 million people and beyond. I guess I'm assuming the answer to these questions, it's a business. Mm-hmm. And nobody seems to really have this figured out right now. And I think who it affects most is newer artists. There are innovative ways to get your music out there. You mentioned Bandcamp and social media. Let's not forget when the days of MySpace, how viable of a tool that was to get for bands to put, sample a few songs off the new album, not just the radio single, but here's a couple of tracks.
I was happy as could be when MySpace came out and we were able to download a couple of our songs from what we were doing to that. Because it was like, wow, I have 100 friends. Like, they could all just go and at a click of a button, they can listen to this. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you had, yeah.
But then when, you think about it as like, so can you, and so can you, and so can you, and so can he, and so can he. And then when everybody's uploading what they did and everybody can hear it, then who hears it? It's a rough game.
It is still a business. It is still a business. However, if ever there was a time for the Fugazi model of getting your music out there to be viable, it's now with the YouTubes and just the internet on the whole. Like
the Mind Rocket project is right there. That what you guys do and putting it out there on YouTube, putting it out on the Jimmy Fro podcast. It's amazing, like how many people that actually ends up hitting, because it's become something now, and YouTube is a great tool, and it's real easy to find. And like Lucas said, anywhere you're at, you could look it up, and there it is,
palm of your hand.
Yep.
Well, there was that girl.
Anything you want to hear ever.
That girl that had that hit based on YouTube. It was like Fridays. What was her name?
Yeah. She's like a young,
something
like a
Black.
13 or 14
Regina
year old
Black or
girl.
something like that?
Rebecca Black.
Rebecca Black.
Yeah. Yeah, she was just some kid, just some kid. Got lucky, like Justin Bieber.
Yeah,
just
Justin
some kid,
Bieber.
a Canadian kid who was singing some stuff in his bedroom, and now he's like a super, super rich dude.
I'm famous on YouTube, but it has nothing to do with music.
if you're good at what you do, then people who like what you do can now hear it. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool for people like me. Like I'm guilty of listening to like a sort of specific weird genre of music. I love that stuff. I want to play that stuff. I go to shows that are those shows that I buy those records and stuff like that. And as a guy who can do that thing, like other people who are into that stuff can check it out now, and that's awesome. That's something that when I was 18 years old in 1993, like that, you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that.
Back to you too, Jimmy. Did you ever hear of the You Talking You Two to Me? It's another Scott Aukerman podcast. It's him and Adam Scott, and they actually just talk about every U2 album.
Really?
And they go through each episode is another YouTube album, and they start off talking about, and like it's a lot of fun, like Scott
like Go
Aukerman.
Fish.
Yeah, but it's
another one they do.
Yeah, but it's really good, and it's the most that I've ever listened to U2. And there is parts like that. There's some songs they have that are good, but that's definitely being that you're a Scott Aukerman fan. Check out that podcast. It's only I think it's only like 10 episodes, but
probably find that in the iTunes store. Yeah. What's the title of it again?
You Talking You Two to Me.
Okay.
Yeah, and it has like the letters and the numbers and stuff are all in there. So
nice.
Regarding U2, it's hard to be angry when you're rich. You know what I mean? When you're young and you're super mad at the world and you got a bunch of energy and you can write songs about it. You have a whole lot to say, but as you get a little older and you've seen some more stuff and you got a bunch of money, like you kind of turn into whatever U2 is now. You know what I mean? And they're putting their music on everyone's Apple devices. I mean, they always had some sort of weird relationship with Apple that I didn't make much sense of because I'm not a huge U2 fan or really much of a U2 fan at all. But, like it was kind of like, okay, yes, young U2 would have wanted their message to get to as many people as possible, I think, because they had a message at that point. Now it's just it's kind of like desperate and sad a little bit. Like something that like a grandpa might do, like, oh man, you hit the wrong button and now it's on everybody's phone. You know what I mean? But it's also like, it's kind of interesting. It's like, hey, here's the thing, it's not taking up any of your space. Our name's on your thing now, but if you want to download it, you just push one button and you have a record on your phone. It's free. Like here, like if you want it, take it. If not, no big deal. Like whatever. I'd never downloaded it, but I haven't taken it off of there either. In fact, I haven't heard a song about it. And, really since that big debacle, and it was a big deal, I haven't heard a word about it since. I don't know if the album completely stiffed or the backlash from that made it stiff. I don't know. You know, I never listened to it. It seems like nowadays there's an initial, and it's old school, you know, like mainstream media press when like somebody's got a new, like Tom Petty came out with a new record, and like it was all you heard about for a week, and then you never heard about it again. And that seems to happen, you know, with big artists, you know, big old school artists. Like there's a big Paul McCartney will come out with a record, it's all you hear about for a week, and then after that you never hear a word about it again. So, you know,
gets lost
because you can only listen to what you want. You can listen to whatever you want. If it's not any good, you're not going to listen to it. You don't have to listen to a thing anymore. If you only want to listen to Korean pop music, you can. Like that's it. Like, and I know people that do that. Like, whatever you want to hear, you can hear it. You don't have to hear something you don't like to hear. You just turn it off. Go listen to something else.
Very true.
And you could argue that, you know, what rabid fan bases, Tom Petty, Paul McCartney, they really don't need to. Their fan base is established. They really don't. They shouldn't have to resort to strange tactics. You know, maybe minimal radio airplay, promotion, but their fans, they know an album's coming out, they're going to get it.
Yeah, but and they'll hit the talk show circuit.
Yeah,
you know, they're on every magazine, like you know, website, press, all over the place. Like you're going to hear that album's going to be like all up in your business for a week, and then you know, if it's good, you know, you might hear about it again, but. You know, if it's no good, it's no good. Nobody's going to listen to it, you know?
And it's the same thing with, you know, a Britney Spears record. Although it might churn out a couple more singles you may hear on, you know, radio, but the promotion, I mean, there's billboards, there's, you know, what, Goodyear blimps, I don't know, you know, posting this stuff. And then album comes out, people get it who get it, and then that's really it. It just seems like that's the model nowadays. You know, it's going back to, and actually had an interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna.
Okay.
You were saying?
One thing, a point Joe Mate brought up was how, you know, oversaturation of the market. Anyone can jump on YouTube, have a music channel, have a music profile, and you know, Joe has his campaign supporting your local music that helps local independent bands, you know, connect with each other and, you know, actually get gigs and get some paying gigs, you know. How do you kind of separate, you know, what's the real deal and what's not?
Well, that's all on you. It's whatever you like.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's all on you. No, there is no great pipe anymore. There is no MTV was when I was a kid, you know, when I watched it from the beginning, you know, and I loved it the entire time. And I got to, you know, you could even then, like, you'd get really excited when one thing you like came on, but you heard everything, and you would sit through an entire day of stuff just to see if the video that you liked for the song you liked, you know, was going to come out. And then now I can hear that right now. Like, whatever I want to hear, boom, it's in my pocket. I can hear it right now. And I can hear whatever I want right now. And like a new Britney Spears record might come out, but I'm never going to listen to it. Not once. And it could be on the radio 1,000 times a day, and I'm never going to hear it one time. Not ever.
All right. Well, I think it's fair to say that we solved the internet.
Yeah. Yep. It's fixed after Kardashian broke it. We got it all wrapped back up. We got it fixed.
Thanks,
You're
Al
welcome.
Thanks, Rick. That was awesome. We want to thank Josh Roman here at Mind Rocket Studio for taping our episodes. Special thanks to Adam Jackson for our show intro. Also, we want to make sure our people that listen, our humans and others from other planets, go to
No Machines.
At 9 p.m. on Sunday nights is the Homegrown Show, so we want them to go to www.933fmthewolf.com. There is a link, a little button that says Listen Live, where Viking Jim and Gary Angelo listen to the music of Northeast Ohio and I believe Western Pennsylvania. Yeah. Close enough. Check them out. Also, a new podcast from the members of Third Class, specifically Lee Boyle. It's the Nursery Podcast. Really, really great idea. I'm jealous of this podcast and its format. It's nostalgic, sentimental. It's interesting. It's cutting edge. Occasionally vulgar, but in the best way. Nursery Podcast, you can find that at SoundCloud. Also, Youngstown Rock Show on Fridays at Golden String Radio. And check us out on Facebook. Submit your questions. Maybe you will debate your topic the next time on Speaking of Music.